Hey, Cece Strong with Spilling the LTea, and today I have actually tea that I poured milk in. I don't normally do that, but I know that some people put milk in their tea, and I actually found it to be kind of refreshing. It was pretty cool. So I don't know if it's going to be the same thing all the time or not. But I wanted to actually once again speak about one of the witnesses in my case. So witness number 17 was my own secretary, who had been promoted into her position through an interview process where I sat in and just listened to the candidates. But the ultimate scoring and all of that, I kind of left to the people sitting on the panel. I also did a scoring so that I kind of let me see where it falls with the people that are doing the interviews. At the end of the day, after all, she was going to be working for me. Well, interestingly enough, I think that there was right out of the gate some serious concerns. Here's why. I am the type of person that I am a task rabbit. So I get on a mission. I love tinkering with things, coming up with projects, working them through on a checklist, and getting things done because it always feels good to check that box and you have an accomplishment. Usually that jars you into another accomplishment. Well, witness number 17 was basically comfortable. And when I say comfortable, I didn't know this witness from anyone else when she was an interviewee for the position. She had worked at one of the stations with my husband, and I believe because of the husband, my husband being someone that knew of her, excuse me, my phone is forever going off, but she knew of my husband and he was able to at least give a decent, she seems to be a good worker, didn't have anything negative to say. But I really truly believed that she thought, since I know him, this is an actual shoe in for me. I know him, so it's going to be an easy street. She came to the unit and I explained to her the fact that it was sorely mismanaged. The files were all over the place. And I gave her one simple mission. Outside of reviewing my memos and making sure they were formatted and structured, I connected her with some more seasoned secretaries, and there was this feuding between the secretaries. Now, I know that one of the secretaries, who was the recipient of all the paperwork coming out of my shop, was problematic in her own right because of all the 7 supervisors that I had. Many of them said, nope, don't even bother sending anything her way, send it directly to my office, which probably caused a little bit of tension between me and this secretary, thus, this secretary and my secretary. I had no problem with it, but at some point I came to a crossroads and said, I need to stay out of this. I need to be left out of this, and you all should be able to work it through. If we need to do a conflict resolution, then that's a different thing. But as time went on, the assignment that I had given to my secretary was not completed. And this wasn't, oops, I forgot. It was one of the many items that I had given her because during COVID-19, she was not calculating the things for COVID-19. I didn't give her the task of COVID-19 until it was trailing off. And I had already set the tracking system in place, entering the information myself, which many unit commanders probably would never do. But because the unit had been so sorely mismanaged, I was in my mind thinking, we need to structure from step by step, A to Z, 1, 2, 3 steps. And I was guilty of probably being a little too immersed in a lot of the work and doing it myself. Well, this secretary took huge advantage of it. But then when it didn't work for her because her lack of performance showed in her performance evaluation, she was upset. She filed a pretty much protest to her testing because after sitting in the position with me for a few years and doing little or nothing, she was ready to promote. Pretty scary situation when you consider the fact that I'm saying, hey, be ready to fail, be okay with failing. Hey, you didn't even start taking minutes for me until I actually baby stepped you through that. What we say on interviews and when we say that we're going to be the best of the best, or hey, we've been in this experience before. And you know what? I was a secretary prior to this, before even coming to the department. So I have some background and experience. I wouldn't have known that by the performance. And then when I wrote the evaluation, she wasn't happy. So instead of me saying, hey, file a grievance process, I'm sorry, this is what it is. I sat down with her and step by step, line by line, went through the evaluation process, her eval that I had written. And I was willing to take notes on things that she says, hey, I don't think I deserve this, or I did something else, or I have some more that I can add and you maybe give me credit for. We had a full on meeting about it. And when I was able to point out to her that she would call off, usually really close to her days off, so that she had a longer weekend, and the fact that she called off on days which were crucial for me to turn in paperwork, have it formatted and vetted and sent to where it needed to be. Luckily, back then, I had the help of other secretaries that I could call on in the event that that happened, or I ended up formatting it myself. I will never understand where people think that it is okay to take advantage of someone being kind to them. And then in this case, to flip it in their favor because they didn't get what they wanted. To top it off, an appeal to the testing process led to going all the way to the Department of Human Resources. And when that didn't work out, through no fault of mine, but through the ability to show documentation that she was not deserving of that appeal and the granting of the same. When I was able to show documentation of that, along with the sergeant who had the information and also had written and did an assessment, between the two of us, it was a fair enough assessment to not actually include in her evaluation that she had failed. I saw it as your first year of being a secretary. Everyone's going to make mistakes. I think one thing that I was guilty of is that I had a very huge level of understanding based on the fact that this unit was just a que sera, whatever will be, will be. Hey, other officers seem to think of it as, oh, that's just that little operation, not realizing 65 locations all over LA County are touched by that little operation. $30 million budget. That's not so small when you think about it. But for small minds who don't see beyond what they are doing being the most special thing on the face of the earth in any corporation or organization, I get why you feel that way. But here's the deal, it takes a whole lot of different people to crank the wheel, to get things rolling, to make sure that the operation works well. And one thing that I was very good at was making sure that I documented, that I had timelines, that I tracked events that mattered, that were outside of normal operations, and that I supported my staff. Hey, some of those that were on this list of complainers were the very ones that reaped the benefit of a promotion. They were gracious at the time. They were sitting in front of me and telling me about how they really appreciated what I was doing. But when it came down to jumping on board to become one of the people saying that I had done them wrong, they were all too quick to make it about themselves and the fact that I had somehow wronged them. This witness, number 17, actually said that she had only spoken to one sergeant about her evaluation. And she never mentioned the fact that I sat down and went step by step over her evaluation with her. To top it off, she had the audacity to say that I had called my sergeant a name when we were meeting in the office. This turned into I had called him a name in front of the group of people in a meeting. It was a gamble and a scramble and a toss of the dice with each of these witnesses who had so much to offer in whatever was their idea of this is a way that I can insert what happened to me, and hopefully it just goes away if she goes away. So anonymous lies were then found to have names of people. How does that work? Well, my commander actually sat down with me well before all this started and made the claim that there were anonymous complaints about me. And then she gave me the names of relatively 7 people. How's that work out? That's half the number of the 15 total in these cases that actually lied. Not long after that meeting in January of 2021, she did it again in July and claimed that people were complaining. It was anonymous. She wasn't sure who they were. And then she emailed me 4 names of who the complainers were. Same thing with this case. We had a letter from one person willing to be brave and stand up and say that I had done something wrong. Oh, and 5 letters or 7, depending on what you read and which lie in this whole packaging, that actually were anonymous, that in rapid succession suddenly came right within that time window of them putting me under investigation. It was like a collective group of people sat down at one big table and let's write, how many do you think we should make and put together to enact this lie? And that's where this case came from. I assure you, if I had mistreated people with disabilities, if I had wronged my staff, if I had grabbed someone looking for tattoos, which was the go to simply because of where I grew up, it just shows the mindset of the people that in everyday life have some issue with something that is different from them. But I digress. Witness number 17 said that I called someone a name, and that was used as one of the reasons of these witnesses that they would say merited me being given discipline. 2 days. That's what I received for discipline. And then it became a negotiation because we got to give you something, right? Or then we exposed the fact that it was all fabricated and a lie. So, to witness number 17, I am so glad that your overzealous willingness to fabricate the fact that I would say something so foul about my sergeant, which wasn't really that foul when you think about it, because I didn't curse, according to you. This allegation word that I called him was simply idiot. And I don't know what would possess anyone in my position to say something like that in front of you on the day that we met for our first day to kick off, or in a meeting, depending on which part of this packaging you read. Make it up as you go seems to be the common theme. So I'm going to counter that by living in the truth, not my truth, documented proof. That's why I am spilling the LT. And it's not just my words, but the documents that go along with it. So if you like what you're actually hearing, this is a real life story. I'm not making it up. I am telling you the truth because I'm living it in real time. The realization that all of the honor and the courage and everything about wearing the uniform, which I still love, by the way, for some, it's a farce. It's a paycheck, and they could care less who they hurt along the way. So to witness 17, no, I didn't do the things that you claimed, but it was enough for weak leaders to use in a case that should never happen. So do me a favor, looking at this video, go down to that little bell down there and subscribe. And better yet, go back and watch all of the other videos for all of the other witnesses. You'll find that it's very interesting. It went from very egregious stuff to storytelling. And the egregious stuff is so off the charts that it leaves one to wonder, hey, maybe you on site think that I'm capable of such atrocities, but I assure you, it's not me and it's not true. But they needed it to actually work. So I'm spilling the LT, and I would say thank you for listening.